Our subject is criminology, and we will discuss the social disorganization theory. The feel of a place. You are riding the subway alone in a major city that you have never been to before. After 3 or 4 stops, you realize that you are on the wrong train and are lost. You decide to get off at the next stop to ask someone for help, but only if it looks like you are in a good neighborhood, otherwise you're getting back on the train. What cues would you use to determine whether you were in a good or bad neighborhood? What would each cue tell you about the neighborhood? Understanding the spatial distribution of crime. Why do crime rates differ across neighborhoods within a city? Is neighborhood crime due solely to the kinds of people who live there, or is there something about the neighborhood environment that fosters crime?
The concentric zone model, also known as the Burgess model or the CCD model, is one of the earliest theoretical models to explain urban social structures. Based on human ecology theory done by Burgess and applied on Chicago, it was the first to give the explanation of distribution of social groups within urban areas.
It is effectively an urban version of von Thunen's regional land use model developed a century earlier. It influenced the later development of Homer Hoyat's sector model, 1939, and Harris and Ullman's multiple nuclei model, 1945. The zones identified are: number 1 is the center with the central business district, number 2 is the transition zone of mixed residential and commercial uses or the zone of transition, number 3 is working class residential homes, inner suburbs, number 4 is in later decades called inner city or zone of independent working men's home, number 5 is better quality middle class homes, outer suburbs, or zone of better housing, commuter zone. Firstly, we discuss that the concentric zones. Burgess started his research with the city of Chicago, a large city that fit very well with his view of how cities are developed. As the first sociologist to consider why specific social groups locate themselves within certain regions, he developed this theory as a way to explain it. His theory considers a bullseye pattern that each city is made from and which represents different groups of people, as we mentioned, who reside in each of those locations. It also considers somewhat why these individuals are located there and what each region is representative of. The zone of transition. This is the first zone that appears once we leave the central business district. This zone was considered one with a mixture of residential buildings and commercial businesses. As a result, it's somewhat of a transition area where you never really know what to expect. It's also the region where the most people live and, as a result, it tends to have more rental properties, more poverty and higher crime rates. Not only that, but it also tends to have higher rates of immigrant groups. Thirdly, we discussed the working class residential district. The working class residential district is the one that the majority of people live in because it's a blue-collar, working class neighborhood. These are the people you normally think of because they have single-family homes and a large group of people as well. It's smaller than the last zone we talked about, but it's the one that most of us are part of, at least in the beginning of our careers. This is where most of the people don't have a lot of education, but they could be working on getting additional education. Their jobs just tend to not use higher level education or degrees. Fourth one, discuss that the educated residential district. As you start moving up the ladder, you may find more people from the educated residential district. These are the people who have more education and tend to have higher level degrees. Because of that, they also have a little better living standard. These are the people who live in a larger house and have bigger yards at the same time. Because they've got a little more money, their standard of living is higher, and they're definitely going to have more ability to do the things they want. Here we're in the fourth ring of the model itself, and as you get higher education and jobs, this could be where you live too. Fifth one, discuss that the commuter zone. Here you're going to have the rich people in town. These are the people you see mostly with big beautiful homes. The ones that you probably wish you could afford, and the giant yards with every luxury. These are people who live on the outskirts of basically everything. They're far away from the city center, but usually they have jobs that are close to the city. Because they have more money, though, they are able to commute to those areas when they need to. It's all because they have more money that they choose to commute more. There are few people in this region because most people aren't able to afford the lifestyle. Now discuss that concentric zones and population density. Of course, concentric zones have a lot to do with the density of population in specific areas. Different zones have different population densities. As you move away from the center zones, the population gets smaller. Commuter zones are a lot smaller than working-class residential zones because there are a lot more people who tend to have lower-level degrees and education than people who are higher level. This happens with all the zones that are smaller in shape because the closer to the city center, the more it's assumed people will live there, and of course, fewer people have a lot of wealth to spend on their housing. Conclusion. Overall, you have to understand different people that make up each of the zones within the model. You should also ensure that you understand the order of the zones and how their layout relates to population density. In general, the larger the circle, the fewer the people live there and the better the living standard. Hopefully, this human geography study guide has helped you understand this model more clearly, including when and by whom it was invented and exactly what the zones really mean.